Yep. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the wasmCloud community meeting for Wednesday, June the 7th. We've got a pretty exciting demo to start us off today, and then we're going to be talking about one current release that we put out earlier in the week, and then an upcoming release for Wash, and then an update on our CNCF project status. Yep. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the WASM. That's me. All right. I think with that, Taylor, I can go ahead and hand it over to you for Wash Spy, which, I just came back from a little time out of the office. I didn't even know what Wash Spy is, and now here you are demoing it. Would you mind giving, as well as the demo, just kind of an overview and motivation around what this is?
Yeah, I am just starting up some providers real quick because I realized I had shut down my local wash. And then I can show you. But basically, what we were thinking of was we just really want to improve a lot of the debug experience and the inner dev loop for people as we've been working on it. And by nature, like wasmCloud's a distributed system. That's the targeted thing. Like even when you're running locally, it assumes distributed. And so we were thinking like, what can we do to like show what's going on? One of the most common things is like, how do I see what's actually being sent between things and all that? So Wash Spy is our attempts to do that. And so this is an experimental thing. So we've introduced an experimental flag that that does this for us. That you can enable, I should say. Otherwise, it won't let you run it because we could change things. We could definitely change the output, but we wanted to expose it for people to give it a try. So that's what Wash Spy is, and I'll just kind of show you what it looks like. And let me go ahead and share now. And then Brooks, I'm going to ask Brooks as a service request for what's the current version of KV Redis, because I can never remember it off the top of my head.
I think 19. 19 is at least new enough.
I thought it was 20, but
shoot your shot, Taylor. Give it a 20. I might have missed that one.
I need someone to look. I actually think I might have it in my logs up here. Because I was too lazy to search for it.
It's 20.
Is it 020? Ha! I was right. I'm slowly taking over Brooks as a service. Okay. Okay, we'll give that a second to start. And then I should have, okay, perfect. We have everything there. So what I did was just spin up, our typical Echo and KV Redis things. So what we tried to do is make this as simple as possible. So over here inside of Wash, I'm going to make sure I have the latest, that I didn't make any more changes. And then what you're able to do is just essentially give it an actor name. And so I'll do Wash experimental. So what it'll look like is Wash Spy Echo like this. And so I'll say like this right here can be an actor ID. It can be the something that matches, like very loosely matches either the call alias or the name of the actor. So there's no more having to specify an actor ID. You just give it the name. And we're going to actually try rolling this out to other commands soon, so you don't have to specify IDs. We'll try to do the same thing for providers and whatnot. But I'll even show you, like, I can do this with the, like here, I can do it, and it'll pop up and tell me. Or I can also just do Echo. And so when I do Wash Spy Echo, it's going to say, okay, I'm spying on an actor Echo. So if I come over here and I do a curl of just the Echo API and I come back, I see this thing that says, okay, timestamp from HTTP server to Echo on this host, and here's the operation and the message that was sent. And so then I can also do this with like the KV counter. So if I go to localhost 8081 and pull this up, I need to actually go spy on it. So I'm going to come back here and say spy on KV counter. Pull the chat down here. And so And yeah, Kevin asked the question, the host in the output is the host that's in the invocation. So it's the host that emitted this invocation. I don't have any more host IDs than that. So we can try to specify that or clarify that. So anyway, here's the KV counter. I can say increment. And if I come back to here, we'll see that I can, I got the HTTP request. So from HTTP server to KV counter on this host, I see the GET request, all the headers that were sent. And then I say, okay, from KV counter to KV Redis. Yeah, see, this is interesting. So it has the host is different here. All I'm doing is pulling the host from the field that's in the invocation. And then I say operation key value increment. And then I say, and I have the message right there. So what this will attempt to do on the inside is it's going to decode the invocation, and then it's going to try to decode the inner message, which is an opaque payload. So we're just doing our best guess. We first try to decode it as message pack, which is the most common thing we see, and then CBOR, because we've had a couple that do that. And then if it fails, it just tries to format the data as like escaped Unicode string. And so that is the that's the basically all wasmSpy does. And apparently discovers there's a bug in the payload. I'm not sure why, but it's there. And so anyway, totally experimental, but you can, like I said, it's meant to be as simple as possible. Give me the actor name or something close to the actor name, and then I'm going to show you every type of communication thing that's going back and forth between them. And so like I'm able to do this. Like if I refresh the page, we'll probably see all the HTTP requests for the assets that pop up, and then like the KV increment. Yeah, and we see a bunch of them. So we see like, okay, like I'm from this HTTP server. Here's my favicon, that I'm getting, and to the API counter. So I'm able to trace all the different requests that are going on. So the idea is no longer do you have to sit there and go like, well, what is my actor getting? Or like, what's going across the wire? This automatically goes and listens to every single topic for every single provider your thing is linked to. There is the one thing that we can't really figure out for it right now is actor to actor. That's one that's a little bit more difficult because there's no linking between actors. So I can't like say, oh, go listen on this topic or go listen on this thing. We might add that in the future with some smarter filtering, like we can grab like any actor topic and then filter based on whether it's in the source or the target for that invocation. So actor to actor won't be there, but it will trace pretty much everything else. So anyway, that is wasmSpy. Any questions? I see nothing in chat, but Brooks has a question.
Hey, it's me, not audience plant. I am actually curious, and I think I can see it here, but I just want to be clear. So when you spy on an actor, it looks at both like incoming and outbound link definitions. And I think I can see HTTP server and key value here, but like, so you invoke the actor with HTTP server, and so you can see that incoming invocation, but then the actor itself, like that WebAssembly module, sends a key value request, and you can see that question mark.
Sorry, you broke up there for me. Probably my internet. What was the very last part of your question?
So that operation down there at the bottom is a request that the actor itself is sending, right?
Yes, because it's coming from the KV counter to the KV Redis. And it says, I'm asking for operation key value increment with this message.
Cool. And are you doing anything fancy like Rust specific in here, or is this just like wasmCloud invocations over the wire? So like
it's wasmCloud invocations over the wire that I capture into a Rust stream. This is entirely reusable. It's part of washlib. So if you want to do your own spying, you can actually do that in your own code. But yeah, this does some really interesting stuff if you're in the Rust ecosystem with SerDes transcode. So you can pull it back between two different protocols. So it's pretty awesome. That is the kind of like only Rust things I did. It was just more just making sure I went to the right topics, subscribed on the right topics, and then listen for them.
Okay, so also like our TinyGo actors will work fine with this as well. Like you'll be able to use
this is not Rust specific in the sense that your actor has to be in Rust. This is purely if you don't mind me tooting wasmCloud's horn here, because we are in the wasmCloud community call. This is where wasmCloud really shines as being a little bit different than other options out there, because you can't really do, like, if you're going to be tracing like this with any other system, you're either going to need to like be implementing some sort of like tracer injector type of thing, which we still have tracing. There's still tracing here, or you're going to have to like capturing actual requests and going through here. But because like we control the protocol and we control everything that's going on, we're able to inspect all this stuff for you. And so it's a great debug tool. It's even a great debug tool for wasmCloud operators, those who are actually going to be operating this in production, because you can restrict which things have access to these topics. So you can issue creds that have access to this only if you're like an admin. So it's pretty, you can lock it down pretty good if you want to. So it's a great debug tool for local dev and also for actually running wasmCloud. Okay. And then Jordan also asked a question around deploying wasmCloud in production. That's partially related to this, I'm guessing, but the whole thing there is we do have the guide for it, but we also I'm really hoping here in the future we can actually have a few more easy to deploy guides like Terraform and whatnot. Not making any promises yet, but that's what I'd really like to have. So it's even simpler for people to just get started. That's just my 2 cents. Okay. I'll go ahead and yeah, and Kevin also brought that up. That's one good final point before I stop sharing. All that was required here was a NATS connection. Yeah, I'm running my host locally, but as long as I can connect to the NATS cluster where this is running, I can spy on the hosts. I don't need a host. I don't need to do anything special with my actors. I don't need any of that. I just need to be able to listen and be able to access the things that wasmCloud should be able to access. Audience plant, Brooks.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Taylor, which you can keep sharing or not. So the wash experimental flag, that's a little, from what I can gather, it's meant for more, this is a new feature. We're just trying it out and not kind of committing it to the stable API that we try to, keep with all wash versions. Are all new features going to come in as wash experimental? How do features get out of the experimental status? I guess I'm just asking in general for a little more around what you were thinking about for this flag.
Yeah, the idea is if it's something that is entirely, sorry to use the word to define the word, if it's an experiment, right? Like, I don't know if this is a good idea or even useful, or if the output is even in the right format, or if I should be set like, this was just like, hey, I want to get this out there. This is one that's actually probably going to graduate from being experimental fairly quickly, is my guess. But the idea is just saying, hey, this is something we could remove. We could entirely break. We could completely change how it works. We're offering 0 guarantees, but we want to get it in front of you because we consider it useful. And so that's where the experimental comes in. That's essentially why we have that. And so there'll be a couple things coming out. There's another one I'm working on. So if we look at wash, something I'm looking at experimenting with today is this feature right here. Being able to just like capture, and eventually I hope to replay traffic, but like being able to capture and like debug something. For those who are gamers, it's basically like being able to like press a button and it grabs the last like 30 seconds to 60 seconds of video or whatever you thing. So like it captures the past for you, and then you can save that clip. This is the same thing we want to do, but with all these invocations. And then you'll be able to like replay it with the like wash spy type thing and be able to like step through and filter is my current plan. So you'll go through like pointed at this like essentially core dump and say filter by actor or filter by provider or filter by actor and provider, and just be able to provide some basic functionality for going through all the things that were captured over the past hour after you find a big issue that happens, and everything that was running and all the invocations that had just run. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that will all like that's very experimental. That could just be a terrible idea, and or just not be used, or really not be useful. And so that's going to go behind an experimental flag for sure, because it is in no way proven out or considered to be a good idea yet.
It's really cool. I think that I think it makes a lot of sense to add things that we think are really like could be really useful, but we want to try them out and we want people to try them out behind the experimental flag. Um, I don't know how this specifically works in the CLI. I guess since you used an environment variable, it can't be a feature flag, a Rust cargo feature flag, but will this also be a feature flag in washlib so that people like by default are not getting the experimental stuff? I don't know. This might be a little too in the weeds. We don't have to keep going into it, but just curious.
Can you repeat that one more time? I was making sure I caught that right. And I was also trying to get the WDAM stuff ready for you because I'm the next topic too.
So the experimental stuff is always going to be included in the CLI that you can just turn on with an environment variable. But for the wash library, is that going to be a feature flag? That's
no, it's not feature flagged on the lib.
Okay.
There we could probably feature flag it in there. Right now, we're playing a little bit more loosey-goosey with washlib because we're really the only ones using it. If people are using it, please let us know. And then we'll try to make sure we feature flag so you know, like, hey, don't touch this one unless like you want to know that it could break. You know, that's the kind of thing that we would want to do. But it is a little bit more of a like kind of just out there. It's there in washlib. So anyway, I think there's some interesting discussion going on around like Nats RBAC and Nats setup. So yeah, no, it's a soapbox. I get that. So we've actually been trying to make that better. There's one thing we're going to move in. So for Jordan, for those who are in the like live stream, Jordan was asking a question around like, how is this secured? Like, how can we lock down something like WashSpy? Actually, believe it or not, in the wasmCloud docs, we have inside of the WDAM section, which is something we're going to move some of this content out to the main page, the main like running wasmCloud page. Like we have, because credentials are important. Credential management is important for the WDAM stuff as well. And right here we have a whole like, this is how you create a sample account and users. So this is like the most basic thing to be able to get users that are like locked down to work with WDAM and only like credentials that are only for WDAM and interacting with the lattice, and credentials that can be used for your hosts. And so this is the kind of thing that you can actually look for. And I will send this out so this can be put into the various chats. And so inside of here, you can actually see how you set up Nats credentials. The only requirement is we use the decentralized authentication, but how you set it up is purely up to like what your needs are, which vary wildly depending on your security requirements and where you're running and what you have to lock down. But that's how this is like the basic way of doing it if you're going to like start locking things down for real when you're running it out in the wild. Okay.
Speaking of Wadham, I would love to use it, but it's been as an alpha release for a while. And if it could just stop being an alpha release, then I would totally use it in my project. Could we? What? Taylor, what is this?
Yes. So in case you didn't see, we finally got WDAM 0.4.0 out. Yes, you can use this. Yes, there are still rough edges, as with any newer software, but you can actually do this. Now, before we continue with our high school play transitions of moving from topic to topic provided by Brooks, just so you know about these, we do have these all listed down here about known issues and missing functionality. So there's things that just are kind of a little bit still janky and rough, but like the core functionality is fairly well tested. We have a full E2E test suite that runs on this now, and you can actually see like all the different tests we're running. but it makes sure we're like running on multiple hosts with multiple WDAMs. And so we're fairly confident at this point, like it's not just going to break on you. You might have to deal with the some of these rough edges that we have listed here. But like it works, like it actually does what it's supposed to do. We're working on rolling it into WASH 0.18. The big note is just know that you have to be running the latest version of the host, the 0.63 chain, essentially, because or versions, because we have to have some new things that are in there that we actually discovered because of WDAM, and those bug fixes went back into the host. So those are all there. We have issues and everything in there too. If you're interested in helping out, some of these are definitely open for the taking. It is very there's some complexity in the code. One of my goals is to add an architecture diagram around the code itself about why and how things are set up. But I'll get to that in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to get these features out for people to use. So that's all there. The documentation is already linked in the chat here in Zoom, and then hopefully linked out to other people. That shows you how you can run it. It shows you the whole WDAM API, and you're able to interact with it with WASH here soon as well. So anyway, just wanted to point out that we have that now. 0.4 is out. We'll continue releasing, adding some additional changes, fixing some things, and please let us know how it goes. Like, give us your feedback. This has been one of the more requested features we've heard from people out in the wild. So please give us the feedback and issues that you run into, and we'll do our best to add and fix those things. Hey, I think that was the last one, and I don't have my agenda still up here with me, so I can't do the nice transition back to now for weather today. We're going over to Brooks Townsend in Washington, D.C. How is it over there, Brooks?
Nobody can see outside. Weather is very hazy, actually. Air quality is not good. But let's see, what is next on the agenda? So I believe we're going to be talking about the next release of WASH, which Taylor, you're actually transitioned to pretty well. So WASH 0.18 is going to be coming up pretty soon. We've got a couple alpha releases that we've been testing in terms of deploying WDAM 0.4 alongside the latest version of the host, which is version 63.1. These are the Beam Burrito releases. Essentially what this changes, and we've talked about it in previous community calls, but it changes the wasmCloud release application from a tarball with files in it into an executable that extracts its own tarballs. Roman has put a lot of work into this to make it more compatible with different platforms. You can actually see on I believe it's on the OTP repo. I have it as a pinned issue, so it doesn't get marked as stale in terms of platform support where we're at. So these releases are going to be, I'll zoom in a bit. They don't have any platform dependencies on macOS. They depend on CA certificates on Ubuntu Debian, and then on the Alpine or Muscle Linux one, it does depend on libgcc, but we're not worried about that for now. And again, fully static for Windows. So for you, you're not going to really notice a difference in terms of moving to this new version, but it's mostly worth talking about because it is going to be a change that when you supply the wasmCloud version to WASH 0.18, it has to be version 63 or newer because of this new structure. Additionally, we're going to be flattening some of the CLI commands and updating the top level help text for WASH. So if you take a look in RFC 538, which I linked here in the community meeting, this was an RFC that I put together around reworking the structure of WASH commands, both to group them into nice, easy categories to understand kind of what you're getting into when you hit the top level help text for WASH. I find this really useful with a lot of Go CLIs, and though Rust doesn't have like a built-in way to do this out of the box, it's pretty easy to do it kind of manually. So this is going to be a new structure for the top level help text. It's breaking change, I guess, but I'm sure nobody is parsing that, manually. And additionally, Victor has actually put in a lot of work in what we've called an effort of flattening the WASH CLI. So a lot of these commands that were linked behind many different subcommands, like wash control link put between an actor and a provider, or wash control stop actor, have moved into wash link and wash stop. Same thing with wash reg push and pull is just wash push and pull. And I think there was one more. Yeah, start, it does the same thing. So you can kind of see an overview of what this looks like here. There's actually a pull request out right now that Victor put out this morning, which he kind of put out for discussion, but this is kind of what the actual top level text is going to look like. And the only other thing that I want to point out here is that I know I've been using Wash. Well, yeah, I've been using Wash since version 1. A lot of us have been using Wash for a while. So changing from something like Wash control start actor to Wash start actor, and then eventually something like Wash start and then the reference is going to take time. And even though we're calling this a breaking change because there's new top level commands, all of the old commands will continue to work. So all of your scripts that you have, wash control start, wash control link, and things like that will work all the same. And we're just putting out a deprecation message in a warning, but we don't really plan on actually deprecating those for quite a while. I kind of spitballed when we call wash 1.0 is a good time to actually deprecate those commands. But anyways, it's not going away in 0.19 or 0.20 or anything like that. So I really wanted to just take part of this community call to talk about some of those changes that we're putting in. Wash 18 has a lot of things that it's modifying, but from a user and developer perspective, it's not going to feel very different in terms of what it does. Like running wash up is going to launch wasmCloud, and that's the same way that it did before. All the commands are going to work the same, but just worth calling out some of those bigger changes. And of course, we'll get those release notes put out on GitHub and then potentially on the website as well. I saw a good bit of chatter in the chat. I don't think it was explicitly related to this part. Anybody have any questions on Wash 0.18 release, some of the new features coming in there? Sweet. Then the last thing that we have on the community meeting today is really short, but really sweet. Just wanted to officially announce that we have not clicked on that RFC. wasmCloud has officially started the process for applying for incubation status as a product or as a project. So right now in CNCF, if you haven't gone through the different project stages, there is the sandbox level, the incubating level, and then graduation. I don't think there's any more in the middle there, but it essentially just corresponds to the maturity of a project, who's using it, how convinced we are that we're putting out a stable API, things like that. And so this is a pretty big move for wasmCloud, and it's a really, really exciting one in terms of where we want to go in terms of stability of the project. Been around for a little over 3 years now, and so we're super confident in making this application. And there's not much really to share here over the next couple of weeks. Things like an official PR from a CNCF incubating sponsor will come out in terms of tracking our status, but we're pretty confident that we've met the guidelines for incubation. We've been putting in the workaround, and special shout out to both Taylor and Bailey for putting things together, like the contributing guide, community guide, the governance, talking about how org maintainers work, and many, many things in the open source world that are standardized and really important for running a successful organization. So that's it. I actually don't have any links or anything to share, but it's just exciting, and we definitely wanted to let you all know that that's where we're at. So all fun stuff. I guess anybody is welcome to ask questions about the incubating stage for wasmCloud. I may just pop it over to Taylor anyways. But in general, I think this is a good time to start kind of our open floor time for wasmCloud. this just the call. There's other stuff in the chat we could talk about as well. All right. Anyone else have any last minute topics or questions they wanted to talk about? Sweet. Then I think this will be a quick one today. We can call it a little bit early. I'll go ahead and cut off the stream. Thanks everybody for tuning in.